And one of the things, Laura, that I haven't really expanded on as much, and I think you're the first person I've shared this in a public space. Probably the number one request I get from people all over the world is, how did you learn how to communicate the way you do? Could you teach us how to do that? And I don't know why, but I was always apprehensive to do that. And my son, Aaron, who works with me in business, he just kept coming to me and saying, people really need to learn how to communicate. And you need to create a process for people. And I have a process. I just never shared it with the world. It wasn't really, I think some of it is, I see communication as both an art and a science. You don't want to do an autopsy on a living thing. And I feel like a lot of times people want to learn techniques and skills and methodologies. And I think communication is so much more about our essence, and that communication is an extension of our person. And so I didn't want to just turn it into a skill set. I really wanted to help people see that communication is the expansion of the self and connecting to other human beings. Every time I traveled the world, this was the number one ask from people. So it wasn't really something I felt like I needed to bring to the world. It was something the world kept asking me to bring to it. And so that's really what motivated me.
It sounds then that communicators, a lot of us would think it's the person behind the microphone, it's the person on a platform. Do you see it that way, or is it a little bit different for you?
No, because I think every aspect of my life has been dramatically and radically impacted by my ability to elevate my own communication. I've been married for over 40 years, and there's no question in my mind that our marriage would not have made it if I had not learned how to communicate with Kim effectively. And, we've raised 3 children, 2 of them that are biological. Both of our kids live within minutes of our home here in Los Angeles. They're full-grown adults, 36 and 33, and they chose to live within walking distance of us. And I don't think we would have that kind of relationship if we had not learned the power of communication in making human connections. So I don't see this as just a platform need. I think this is the human need, that humans long to connect. Our deepest desire and intention is to connect to each other. And without healthy communication, we simply do not make deep human connections.
So when we're talking about the frequencies of communication, what are you referring to there?
A huge part of what I wanted to bring people is a way of hearing, because the best communicators are, in my mind, the best listeners. They have a unique ability to hear people well and to understand what people are actually meaning behind their words. And so it took me a little while, but I sat down and began processing through how people are heard. It wasn't really at first saying, how do people speak, but how do we hear each other? And I began to identify 7 signature frequencies of human communication. And they're the commander, the challenger, the motivator, the healer, the professor, the seer, the maven. And I saw 5 of them right away. It was very easy because there's some very common communication frequencies that you do hear from all the time, especially if you watch social media, if you listen to professional communicators. There are frequencies that are just common and reoccurring. But there are some other frequencies that are less common, but perhaps even more impacting. I put together the first 5, which were the commander, the motivator, the challenger, the healer, and the professor. It took me a little bit longer to really hear the 6th frequency of the seer, and which is really odd because that's my second highest frequency, and then it took me the longest amount of time to identify the 7th frequency, which is the maven, which is actually my primary frequency. And one of the things I realized in the process was that we don't really realize that we're emitting a frequency. We're just being us. I'm not trying to use a maven frequency. I'm just more inherently a maven, and that's the way I communicate, and that's the way people experience me. And my wife, her number 1 frequency is a commander. She doesn't wake up in the morning going, I'm going to command the universe. She just inherently, naturally engages the world through this commander frequency. And one of the things, Laura, that I haven't really expanded on as much, and I think you're the first person I've shared this in a public space, is that the communication frequencies are more than a communication style. They are a neurological pattern. And that the reason you communicate the way you do is because your brain processes information a certain way and translates it to the world in a certain way. And so when a person is talking about, how do I change my communication style? I'm going, you can't change the way you communicate unless you change the way you think, because your communication system is connected to your cognitive system.
Is that something we should change then in terms of rewiring the way we think? Or is it more about having an ability to help others understand the way we think a little bit better?
Well, one of the things that's so important about this is that the 7 frequencies of communication are not a static system. When you take a personality assessment or psychological assessment, normally they're very static. They tell you who you are. You're introverted or extroverted. You're intuitive or sensing. You make decisions based on logic, or you make decisions based on values, or you're highly structured, highly adaptive, and they teach us that this is who we are. And that's how we engage the world. But the 7 frequencies are a dynamic system. What they help you understand is what your core primary frequencies. This is your default frequency. This is how you communicate when you're not thinking. And all of us have a default mode. But what I really hope for people is that they expand their frequencies, because human beings are incredibly dynamic. And if we can learn how to expand our own communication frequencies, we're able to speak to different kinds of people in different environments incredibly effectively. But also, we learn how to hear people too. And because each frequency has interesting challenges for the hearer, because every frequency is incredibly powerful with one aspect of communication, but then is lacking in another. You might have a healer frequency that brings incredible empathy and therapy to their frequency, but they lack the clarity and the command of, I know you love me, but I don't know what you're asking me to do. And then you might have a person with a commander frequency that's just very utilitarian in their language, but it's lacking that empathy or that connectivity to your emotional well-being. And you're wondering, do you see me, or do you just see what I can do? And so each one of these frequencies has strengths and weaknesses, even when they're being operated from a very healthy core.
And the Bible tells us that in our words, in the tongue, is the power of life and death. So our words do matter. Our communication matters. But why do you think that our words have that much power? How come they carry so much weight?
There are a lot of people talk about manifesting. You can speak reality into existence. Well, I actually don't think that's accurate, but I actually think it comes from something that is accurate. We can't speak the external world into reality, but when you speak into someone's inner world, it actually shapes their reality. When you speak into children, you tell them you don't matter, you're nothing, you're worthless, you're not, you're not loved. That actually creates a universe inside of them. When you speak into a child, you tell them you matter. I love how hard you work. You're loved unconditionally. You matter. You have significance. Your words are actually creating a universe inside of that human being. And I think one of the reasons this is so powerful is that, maybe I can't speak a word and create a planet, like that's not my creative power, but I can speak a word and bring hope and meaning into someone's life. I can speak a word and destroy the power of doubt and fear, and actually help create courage and faith. And so we need to realize that our words have infinite power, and that human beings are designed this way. And so our words are not just a utilitarian function of the human species. It is a reflection of the image of God inside of every human being.